Hi everyone and welcome to a new YouTube tutorial from Art with Mrs Price. This is for my year 8s that are currently doing online learning. However, anyone that stumbles across this video is welcome to have a go. So today we're going to have a go at creating a portrait in the style of contemporary English artist Luke Dixon. So Luke Dixon is a graphic design artist and illustrator based in Middlesbrough, and his work is absolutely fantastic. I'll try and include a couple of pictures on the screen for you to look at, and you'll see what kind of style we're going to go for today. So what you're going to need is a piece of A4 paper. Obviously you can do it larger or smaller if you want, a ruler, pencil and rubber, the basics, and then you're going to need some black felt pens or ink pens for the end. You're also going to need a picture of a portrait. So I've got one here of Jay-Z, which is a portrait that Luke Dixon has done before, so that's why I'm going to use that one. For my students who are doing the online learning, I have already attached a few different pictures for you. So we've got one of Ariana Grande, I've got one of Jay-Z, and there'll be a couple of more on the Teams online learning for you. But you don't have to stick to these people, you can do anyone you want. So I know some people do the Queen, that's quite popular, or it could just be a portrait of somebody that you know. So let's get started. You'll see that for my portrait I've already got the grey grid on top, and that is to help me trace out the outline of my portrait. Now I don't want all of the details, I really only just want the outline, because I'm not going to be getting all of the tone in with my pencil. I'm going to be adding lines into them areas in the style of Luke Dixon's work. So there's two ways to do this. You could either get a piece of paper and lay it over a printout of a portrait, or have it on a screen like this and trace it, which is a really easy way. It is cheating, but you can get away with doing that. Or you can use the grid technique, which is what I'm going to do now. So for my students, the grids are already on for you to make it easier. So I'm going to go ahead and draw this grid. So I'm going to start with my vertical lines. I can see I've got 3. So I know that my page is divided into quarters, which is 4 parts. So I know that I just need to divide my page roughly in half. Half again. And half again. So I'm just doing this roughly because this isn't going to be a perfect portrait. So I can see I've got 1/4 bigger than the other, but that doesn't really matter at this stage. Now I'm doing my pencil lines extremely pale because these are going to disappear at the end. So what I'm then going to do is I'm going to measure the width of my sections, and I'm going to repeat the same down here. I want them to be square. So I know I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 square sections and a little rectangular section at the top. So I know it's roughly 5 centimetres. So as I said, these sections are roughly 5 centimetres in width. So I'm just going to measure 5 centimetres from the bottom of my page, put a little mark, 5 centimetres again, a little mark, 5 centimetres again, again, and again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we're going to have nearly a square section at the top, which is fab. Okay, so that's my grid done. Let me bring this a little bit closer so that you can see it. So it's very pale, but I've got a grid that matches the one that I've got, that I'm the portrait that I'm doing. So it's really easy. If you just get a print out of somebody different, you can just fold your paper up to make your grid, or you can draw lines on, just like I've done here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start recreating the basic outlines of this portrait into here. I don't want lots of detail and lots of shading, and I'll talk to you about why at the end. I just want to get the basic outlines in. So I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way over from the left over to the right. So I know that in my bottom box here, I look at my entry line and my exit line. So my entry is about here and the exit is about here. And then going to follow on up here. I know he's got I think it's called a lapel, the collar of his jacket that starts about up here. comes all the way down to there, comes in and goes out like that. I can't really see that area, but I think that's what it does. And I can see, by zooming in here, I've got a line that stays in this first box, if you can see there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go ahead and get this outline in. Okay, so now that I've got my pencil outline, and you can see I haven't put in any of the shading yet or any of the finer details, what I'm going to go ahead and do is outline all of the lines that I've already got in a medium to thick black pen. Okay, so now I've done that, you can see that there's a few lines that I've left. So this thin line here that we found on the jacket, and his lines on the forehead there. Now for them lines, I'm going to use a thinner black pen. So now this is a stage where we start adding in the lines and the tone as Luke Dixon does in his imagery. So the first thing that I'm going to do is, because I know I can start with the hair, as it's all a similar texture, I'm going to start with the hair up there. Now if you look at a few different Luke Dixon images, you will decide how best to do this. For me, because I know I want it to be a really dark area, I'm going to just do lots and lots of circles and fill in this whole area with the black pen, like this. Next step we're going to do is we are going to look for the darkest areas of shade or tone now. So the darkest areas, and all we're going to do is outline those areas. So I can tell by looking at this image that it's the right hand side of the face that is darkest. Now if you've got a black and white image like this one, it's much easier to tell where the darker tones are because it's all in grayscale already. But for this one, I'm just going to look for the darkest areas. Now up here, I can see that there's a dark area that joins onto one of his lines on his forehead and comes down just to his eyebrow. So all I'm going to do with quite an abstract line, we don't want it to be smooth because it'll look odd at the end. I'm going to outline where I think that area is. Now I know it goes all the way down to the eyebrow here, and then I can see this area here, which is also quite dark above the eye. I can then see it carries on down here, up towards the nose there, around the mouth here, under the lip, and down to the chin. I can also see this area of his neck is very, very dark, so I'm going to get that on. I can see this bit of his ear is very dark, and the top bit. And they're the darkest areas. I can also see a bit down here, which I'm going to get drawn on as well. So there are darkest areas. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pick out the darkest points of those areas, which I know is down here, which I'm just going to put a little mark in, here, which I'm going to put a little mark in, and the ear here. Okay, I'm going to try and stay away from the face with this and just do the very outside areas. Then bits I'm going to colour completely in black with my thick black pen. Now I've done that, the areas that I haven't filled in black, that I've still outlined as the darkest areas, I'm going to fill them with lots of condensed lines, lots of compact lines, should I say. And that is going to give you the impression that they are the darkest areas. So if I was shading in a paler area with lines, I would have them more spaced out. If I'm doing a darker area, I might have them a lot closer together. I might even use a cross hatch, which is like this. But for this, I'm just going to use lines. So the first thing that I'll do is I'll outline them in my pen. And then I'm going to fill them in with lines. Now it doesn't really matter which way your lines go, that's up to you, but I know that it's coming in from the side of the face, so I'm going to keep mine going that way. They might change to go slightly upwards and diagonal down here, but that's what I'm going to do now. I also forgot to mention it's important that your lines go from the first line that you drew to the edge of the face. You don't want floating lines, which are these, because it won't look right. So they must connect. Every line should touch another line. Making sure that I'm keeping them really, really compact. And then down here they might change direction a little bit. You can see now that I've filled in all of them darkest areas with my compact lines. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and find the next darkest areas, outline them in my pencil and fill those in. But before I do that, I'm going to get the hair of my eyebrows in. Now, I can see that there's actual hair strokes on there, but I want all of my lines to be connected. So I'm going to make sure that all of my lines go from the top to the bottom. However, because I want these areas to be darker, what I might do is overlap them or make some of them a bit thicker, and that's absolutely fine. Okay, so now I'm going to carry on finding the next darkest areas, or the second darkest areas, outlining them in my pencil, then outlining them in my pen and filling those areas in. Now I'm going to do that until nearly all of the face is covered in lines. However, there are going to be some areas, the palest areas, like the nose and the eyes and some of the lips and probably the top as well, the shirt, sorry, that will be left completely blank and I won't have any lines in them. And you can see what I'm going to do is I'm going to spread these lines out a little bit more because I don't want them as compact as the darkest area. Okay, so for the final touches of the portrait, there are some lines that I'm just going to thicken up, so especially the dark ones near the eyes.
Darken the ones up a little bit.
Especially this area here of this eye. It's completely black, so I'll probably just colour that one in. And then there are some areas that I'm just going to connect up to make it flow through a little bit better. So I've done it around the nose here. So I think I'll just add a couple more here. And I'll probably add a couple of these ones that just connect up like this here. I'm not going to fill the whole thing in. I might do a couple down here as well. Okay, and that's it. That's the finished Luke Dixon portrait. So please let me know how you get on. Tag me on Instagram if you've had a go. And what I'll go ahead and do now is I'll rub all of my grid lines out once I'm done. Now, what Luke Dixon does do on some of his backgrounds is he blocks it in and colours it all in black, and that way this is very, very striking. However, if you are doing this as part of the online learning for Windsor, then I'd like you to keep your background white because you are going to be cutting this out and putting it in your sketchbook. So remember, you can have a go at the portraits that I've put online in the resources for you, or you can find your own. But let me know how you get on, and good luck.